Empire of Ashes, Episode 6, Closer, written by Mia. There is a particular exhaustion to living in a house where one man wants to kill you for what you know and another is falling in love with you for what he doesn't. And I wore it, that week, like a second dress under the first. Nico did not move against me. That was the genius of him, the 30 years of him. He simply waited, visibly, in doorways and at the edges of rooms, the way weather waits. He passed me the salt at dinner. He held doors. And every courtesy was a sentence in a conversation we both knew we were having. The one that ended "give me the ledger or I'll take it off your body," and the not saying it was so much louder than saying it would have been. I learned to keep the thing moving. Never in the same place 2 nights running, sewn into a coat, then a book, then taped beneath a drawer that didn't open easily. And I learned that you can get used to anything, even the specific cold of being hunted under your own roof by a man who pours your wine. I stopped sleeping properly. I'd lie in the beautiful bed in the beautiful cage and run the arithmetic over and over. The ledger, the 2 families who wanted it, the husband who'd die if it surfaced, the husband who'd die if I gave it up, the same husband both times. I took to walking the house at night, learning its other geography, the after dark one, which floorboards spoke, which doors Nico's men watched, where the guns were kept and where they weren't. I told myself it was preparation. It was partly grief. The house was so quiet at 3 a.m, all that marble and old money holding its breath, and I'd stand at the tall windows looking down at the garden where Dario had put his coat around my shoulders and think, 6 months ago I was a girl at a university who believed her father when he said everything was fine. I didn't recognize the woman in the dark glass. She had learned to pour her own coffee and lie with her whole face and sleep with one ear open. My father had raised me to be honest, and the Marchettis had finished raising me in 11 weeks, and I was no longer at all sure whose daughter I was becoming. It was Sophia who nearly undid me, and she did it with kindness, which is how the Marchettis did everything that mattered. She found me in the garden, the second evening, and sat beside me on the cold stone bench with the unself-conscious ease of a girl who'd never once had to make herself small, and she said, "You've gone gray, sister. You don't sleep. Dario thinks it's the attack at the opera, and he's being very manful and patient about it, which is unbearable to watch." She knocked her shoulder against mine. But I had a sister-in-law for 2 days once, before Papa decided she wasn't suitable, and she went away, and she had that exact gray look, the look of a woman keeping a secret too big for one person. So, she studied me with her brother's dark eyes and none of his patience. I'm not going to ask what it is. I'm just going to tell you that whatever it is, you've got one more person in this house than you think you do. That's all. You were kind to me when you didn't have to be. I notice things like that. It's the only useful thing about being the girl nobody listens to. And I had to look away across the dark garden because Sophia Marchetti had just offered me her loyalty, freely, the way her brother offered me everything, in the disguise of something smaller, and she was sitting on top of a bomb that I was carrying, and if I was clumsy with it she would die in the blast, this bright, sharp girl who noticed things, and she did not know, and I could not tell her. And the weight of all the people I was lying to in order to keep them alive had just got one person heavier. Dario found me later in the library, and he was carrying his own secret, and the way our 2 secrets passed each other in that room without touching is the closest I have ever come to understanding what it is to be properly damned. "I've been looking into something," he said. He poured 2 glasses of the wine I pretended to drink, and he stood by the cold fireplace with that stillness that I now knew was not coldness, but control held at enormous cost. "Since before I married you, I told you once, I've spent months trying to understand why your father's heart stopped when it did. Who profited? He turned the glass. I found it, Lena. Most of it. I found my father. The room went very far away. I kept my face still, 3 months of practice, and said, "Your father's dead." He is. And he spent the last 5 years of his life doing things I'm only now finding the shape of because he was too proud to let even me see how bad it had got. Dario's jaw was tight. The family was failing Lena. At the end, Salvatore Marchetti, who everyone in this city still crosses the street to avoid, he'd mortgaged us to the commission and borrowed from the Falcones and played them against each other to hide it. And he bled honest men like your father dry trying to plug the holes. And it wasn't enough. And he died before it came down. He looked at me, and there was a terrible honesty in it. I inherited a corpse wearing a crown. I've spent 8 months holding it upright so the Falcons don't realize how dead it is, because the day they understand how weak we really are is the day they stop circling and come in for the kill. And there's a piece of it I can't find, proof and accounting, something your father may have put together before he died, because the timing says he knew, he understood exactly how broke and exposed we were, and a man who knew that and wrote it down is a man worth killing to silence. His eyes held mine. Whoever has that proof, Lena, holds my family's life in their hands. The Falcones would trade their own children for it. And I've been turning over the whole city trying to find it before they do. And I'm close and I'm afraid. And I'm telling you because you're the only person in the world I don't lie to. And I'm tired of carrying it alone. Every word he said was a key turning in a lock I was standing inside. He thought he was confiding in his wife. He was, without knowing it, describing the noose and handing me the rope and telling me he trusted me to hold it. Whoever has that proof holds my family's life. I had it. I'd had it the whole time. I'd carried it past him 100 times. At breakfast, at the wedding, in the foyer with a man dying 8 feet away. The entire load-bearing secret of his survival tucked into a dead man's cipher against my ribs, and he had just looked me in the eye and called me the only person in the world he didn't lie to. I thought I'd known what guilt was. I'd been nursing my father's like a coal for 3 months. I learned, standing in that library, that there's a worse kind, the guilt of being loved and trusted in exact proportion to how thoroughly you're deceiving the person doing it. Salvatore Marchetti had murdered my father, but it was his son, looking at me with that terrible open honesty, who finally made me feel like the villain in my own revenge. I stood 4 feet from him with his family's life sewn into the spine of a book 2 rooms away, and I said nothing, and the nothing was the largest lie I have ever told. He saw something cross my face. He saw everything. I have told you that. But he read it wrong, or read it right, and chose the kinder wrong. And he crossed the room, and he set down his glass, and he said low, "I'm frightening you. I'm sorry. I keep doing the thing my father did, making you carry the weight of this house. You didn't sign up for a dying empire. You signed up for a debt cleared and a name kept, and instead you got the opera and a man on the marble, and a husband who tells you the family's broke at midnight in a library." His hand came up, slow, asking, and brushed a strand of hair from my face, and his fingers were warm and they trembled, just slightly. This man who never trembled. "Tell me to stop. The arrangement says I don't touch you unless you ask. I've kept it. I'll keep it till I die if you tell me to. But God help me, Lena, I stopped being able to tell the arrangement from the truth somewhere around the 3rd breakfast, and if you don't tell me to stop, I'm going to stop being able to remember why I shouldn't." "Don't stop," I said. I had spent 3 months learning to lie to this man with my face, my voice, my steady hands. But there are things a body won't lie about, and when he kissed me, finally, after the cold restaurant and the cathedral and the blood, after breathe, after the code in the garden. When Dario Marchetti finally kissed me, it was like the whole careful architecture of both of us coming down at once. Controlled demolition. Every wall I'd built to hunt him, and every wall he'd built to survive his father falling together into the same rubble. He kissed me like a man who'd been starving politely for months. I kissed him back like a woman who'd married her enemy and found, at the bottom of all that hate, the only person who'd ever seen her clearly and chosen her anyway. I won't tell you the rest. Some things even a confessor keeps. But I'll tell you that for one night, in the house his dead father had poisoned, with a bomb that could kill us both 2 rooms away, I let myself stop being a blade, and he let himself stop being a wall, and we were, the 2 of us, just briefly, exactly what we pretended at the altar to be. And it was the truest thing in a marriage built entirely on lies, and the most dangerous, because afterward, lying awake with his arm heavy and warm across me, I knew with total clarity that I could no longer let him die, and that I no longer knew how to stop it. I watched him sleep, the most feared man in the city, undefended, one hand still loosely curled around my wrist even in sleep, as though some part of him couldn't quite believe I'd stayed and meant to keep checking. In sleep, the control went out of his face, and I could see, finally, the whole of what his father had made and nearly broken. A boy who'd watched a man brought into a dining room to be taught a lesson, who'd grown up swearing to run the family some other way and was killing himself quietly trying. I had married him to destroy him. I had lain awake the first night in this house planning the exact route to his ruin. And now I lay awake planning how to save him from a grave his own father had dug. And the symmetry was so cruel and so complete that I almost laughed, there in the warm dark. Except that laughing would have woken him. And I wanted to give him one more hour of believing his family was safe before the morning came and took it back. So I gave it to him. It was the only honest gift I had. I lay still and let him sleep on a fortune of borrowed time, and I counted his breaths, and I did not cry, because I taught myself not to, in a house that punished it. By dawn I had made exactly one decision, and it was the most dangerous one on offer. I was going to find a third way, the way that kept him and the truth and myself all alive at once. I had no idea yet that there wasn't one. The note came in the morning, slipped under the door of my private rooms by a hand I never saw, on paper that smelled faintly of cigars and money. It was not from Nico. I knew Nico's pressure by now, the patient weather of it. This was something else, something colder and from further away, and my blood went to ice before I'd finished the first line. Mrs. Marchetti, it said, your father was a careful man. Careful men make copies and keep records and leave their work to careful daughters. We believe you have something that belongs, by rights, to whoever is strong enough to hold it. Your husband's family is not any longer strong enough, though they're doing a touching job of pretending. We'd hate for you to go down with a sinking ship out of sentiment. Bring us your father's accounting, and we'll make sure the Russo name and the Russo daughter survive what's coming for the Marchettis. You have until the new moon. After that, we take it the hard way, and we don't mind which of you we have to go through. A friend of the family, the other family. The Falcones. They knew the proof existed. They knew I had it. And they had just given me a choice that was not a choice. Betray the man I'd fallen for and live, or stay loyal to a sinking family and die with it, with a deadline the new moon, 11 days off. I stood in the gray morning with Dario still asleep in the next room, warm and undefended and dreaming, for the first time in 8 months, that he wasn't carrying his family alone, and I understood that I had become, in a single night, the most dangerous person to him in the entire city. Not Nico, not the Falcones. Me. The wife with the bomb and the deadline, and the heart that had finally, catastrophically, picked a side it wasn't allowed to pick. 11 days. 2 families who'd kill for what I carried. A husband who'd hold the door for his own murderer before he'd let me see him afraid. And a ledger that was, depending on how I played it, either the thing that saved Dario Marchetti's life, or the thing that ended it. I had wanted once to burn his whole world down. I had 11 days to figure out how to keep it standing instead. To be continued. That was episode 6 of Empire of Ashes. If this one has its hooks in you, the next episode is already waiting. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The complete book is on Amazon, and early episodes plus Dario POV bonus scenes are on my Patreon. Links are in the description.
I've Mia.
Thank you for listening.